show coming from the rack store. With this back in the Mac in the back flow. Let's go, chillin' with raccoons by the back door. Take calls so you can stake more. All I wanna do is making dough, right? But I found this crew and doing alright. We rack will bitch, ready to fight. So many raccoons ready for the boss life. I might fly high like a kite, right? But always ready for a shite for the right price. Raccoon supply has the right price, giving you respect if it's likewise. So I'm buying all the mean guys with the clean heart. Read between lies, laser beam through lean eyes. Warrior with clean lies, trash mouth, mean smile, be wise. NFT wise, fuck with these guys. It's the rack lab from the back lab. 100 NFTs in my backpack. Crazy rack lab from the stash app. Rack will take a lead in this haystack. It's the rack lab from the back lab.
Good morning, RAC FM. It's always 100 EST, and what does the O stand for? Oh my god, a fucking raccoon is in my ears. Guys, it's Monday the 6th of March 2023, and this is your daily Crypto Cosmos US of A breakfast show with your host, Mayor of Rackville, and obviously your favourite co-host, Bbandz from the block. And we are super excited today. We are going back to our roots where the rack spaces began 12 months ago with Notional DAO. I say Reese is in the audience. He was with us back in the early days, right? Before we get stuck in, guys, I just want to say tonight's show is sponsored by TwitterSpaces.org. That's TwitterSpaces.org. Obviously, they are editing and archiving all of your favorite Twitter spaces. If you want to go over there, you'll be able to find the RAC FM landing page, which is just TwitterSpaces.org/RAC-FM, right? You'll be able to find all of the back catalogue for RAC FM. And very soon, guys, I'm really excited to tell you that we'll have our own landing page on Spotify. So essentially, you'll be able to go on Spotify and RAC FM will actually have its own channel on Spotify, which is huge in my opinion. So yeah, make sure.
I agree.
Sorry, Jacob.
Really cool.
1 second, Jacob. I'll finish the introduction too. 1 second. So get over to Terra Spaces, guys, if you can. Even if you just donate $5, right? It really does do a lot. It costs a lot to do what Finn actually does. Hundreds of thousands of hours of spaces recorded. We'd also like to give massive shout out to our origin, which is Raccoon Supply, obviously the NFT project that does have casinos, where you can play the slots and the dice on Huahua and Juno, and coming to new chains, guys, very, very soon, and releasing a marketplace on Huahua. So keep your eye out on Raccoon. And finally, just to finish up, guys, the beginning, I want to say a big, big, big shout out to some of our friends from some other projects who've been very, very supportive of RAC FM over the last 7 days since the funding discussion went out into the public. I'd like to say a big shout out to Stargaze Zone and Bonzi from Sunnyside Reapers for all of their advice regarding things like governance proposals, multi-sigs. Bonzi's been a fantastic mentor to the show, so big shout out to that guy. We'd also, guys, like to say a massive shout out, right? And this is going to sound weird. We'd like to give a huge shout out to both White Whale /Migaloo and, believe it or not, Gelato. And why I'm saying these two particular projects, guys, and why you might be surprised, is that they've actually reached out to RAC FM and declared their interest in wanting to be able to help fund us produce more shows, be able to do giveaways, be able to start live streaming, be able to live stream that into the Discord. We really have got major, major plans, right? Finn and I and Ambedo, etc., Brasco, of where we want to take this show. And, guys, we're not going to do it alone. We are going to need some support to hit the heights we want to. And yeah, Gelato and White Whale, which is a big shock to everybody, I think. We've sat down, we've had a discussion. They're both really willing to support Raccoon FM, and Raccoons are going to support them moving forward. So we've got a special NFT that we're going to donate to the Gelato Treasury, the vault. And Gelato are actually going to donate, guys, on a residual perpetual basis. Perpetuity, they're going to donate a portion of their validator awards to the production of a really, really good sort of RAC FM channel. Bbandz, how much of a big news is that? Crazy, isn't it, darling? Yeah. Oh,
yes. Sorry. Just give me. I need like 5 minutes.
You're cool, darling. You're cool. So, without further ado, let's welcome the man of the moment, the star of the show, one of the biggest, brashest personalities in the cosmos, the greater cosmos. Now, regardless what you think about him, his approach or his tactics, we all fucking love Uncle Jacob. It's where he started. He's one of my greatest friends in blockchain, without a shadow of a doubt. Been with him since he was less than 2K followers. So, Jacob, how are you doing today, sir? I saw you were go-karting, right?
Oh, yeah. There was some definite go-kart action. All of the kittens in Notional went out and zooming, man. Zooming. There was a little bit of crash action, too, but like not serious crash action.
How many times did you crash?
Oh, I didn't crash it.
Good man.
Yeah.
Good man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that oversteer, dude, that oversteer into the corners catches people out all the time, right? You've got to be really careful of those little carts, yeah? Dude, they are fast, aren't they?
Yeah. In fact, they seem to kind of. It does look. Okay, I'm from Buffalo, New York. It's a little remote. Okay, I say I'm from New York. People always think New York City, but I'm kind of from like. It's not rural exactly, but let's just say that the go-kart track here was a much more advanced thing than we've got around in Buffalo, really. That was pretty cool. These were more beefy go-karts, I must say.
Sorry, Jacob, I was just sending Tank, the co-host. Yeah, dude, I used to love a lot of go-karting. My friend's son actually did it professionally, and he used to like race all over the UK and around Europe, yeah? Dude, he spent, listen to this, right? My friend, yeah, well, he was my ex-boss, but a good friend. He spent £1.2 million, right? Let me say that his kid was like go-karting.
Wait, is it on a go-kart? You can do that?
I do. Well, if you want to go into like Formula 3 and then Formula 2, if you want to work, you've got to be go-karting from like 3, 4, 5 years old. These kids that get to Formula 1, yeah, they've all been go-karting from like really, really young single years, yeah. My friend spent 1.2 million up until the kid got sponsorship, like when he was like 17, turning 18, 1.2 million pounds, dude.
That's I'm kind of at a loss for words here. So, what is one of these especially potent go-karts? How's that work out?
Well, that was including like things like the trailer and stuff, and they have like more than one cart. They pay for like mechanics to work on them and stuff. It's the traveling alone is like unbelievably expensive. And unfortunately, the kids, their sponsorship money just doesn't come close. Yeah, you've got to be a lot older where the real money is, But yeah, he got sponsorship. I mean, he's doing quite well at the minute, yeah.
Oh,
anyway,
that's
Jacob, look who's joined us. Look who's joined us. Hello, Tank.
Oh, hey, Tank. Dude, how are you doing? It's been a minute.
Well, look who decided to show.
Yeah. I was late. I'm sorry. I had a sick kid overnight. I don't know what happened with him, but he's feeling better now.
Oh, dear.
Oh, that's good. That's good. That's what matters,
Yeah, he bounced back. Last night hit him like a ton of bricks, and then he woke up this morning just ready to hit the floor running. So kids, man, to be young and be able to bounce back like that was, I can't even remember it, but it's nice to watch.
That would take me days to recover from at this age, Tank,
I know, right?
Hey, Tank, yeah, I did the little intro and I said in connection with the IBC gang, I'm so happy that this is our first little collaboration. And guys, I thought long and hard about a co-host. And I asked Tank if he would come up, simply kind of because he's really good at kind of like keeping people on track, ensuring that like you don't skip something or, you get back to the original point. I think Tank's one of the best in the business at keeping convos on track. So, yeah, I mean, Tank, if Jacob's okay, shall we get down to it and give the audience something to listen to, yeah?
Absolutely.
Brilliant, brilliant. Right, Jacob, where I would like to start, and again, Jacob, thank you very much for coming here.
You're very welcome, and start anywhere you'd like to, sir.
I'd like to start with funding, and that's because we're involved in funding at the minute, right? And I mean, I want to say congratulations. Notional has just received a grant for work that they're going to do over the next 3 years. Jacob, can you just tell us, first of all, what kind of difference is this kind of money going to make to your business? Like for improving or hiring or equipment wise, like just how much of an impact is this kind of funding to a business like yours?
Well, it's quite substantial. Now, the way that I'm gonna walk you through like how we're going to manage it, right? Because the 1.4 million, it won't be in a liquid form. We're putting it in a vesting account. And I know that we spoke to you about doing the same with yours, and to anybody in the audience who's considering making a fund and governance proposal, I strongly want to recommend vesting it. And the reason is that ensures, when funds are in a vesting account, like even if we wanted to rug the whole community, we literally can't. Okay, it slowly becomes available over time. It's just a straight line. So you begin the vesting, and then at the end, 100% of it, will have become available. But basically, we're going to stake it, okay? And that is going to allow us to do a lot of additional work with the hub. Now, equipment, well, the hub has a weird situation with regard to equipment because I don't think anybody really knows where the ICS stuff is going. But this funding isn't for that equipment. And frankly, equipment isn't really a very big cost for us. Probably our equipment costs are, quite similar to any other validator. But now in terms of staffing, it's huge because in fact, both internally and externally, we frequently face this question of like, well, the hub does not pay you. And why are you working on the hub? And so for a long time, our work as an organization on the hub, it's been limited to like what I can do in, essentially spare time, right? And through that, I still managed to contribute a good deal of code to the Cosmos Hub, and then also to the different libraries that it consumes. So to answer your question, man, it's enormous because it eliminates that question. There are a lot of people in the Cosmos community who have observed to me that the Cosmos Hub has subsidized other chains. And I must say that, at least in the case of Notional, the situation is sort of opposite to that. That is to say that other chains have subsidized the Cosmos Hub. And some areas where that has happened are like relaying, software dev in the sense that like we'll make contributions to other pieces of software in Cosmos, integrate those into the hub. And, there was no payment for that. And the way that we're going to try and organize this, I have a list now of like what we'd like to do for the hub in the first quarter. And actually, I should say that a lot of this stuff was designed in conjunction with Jihan from Informal Systems. And guys, if you've noticed, maybe, if you're not technical, I suppose you might not notice, the hub repository has improved a very great deal. And I absolutely am very happy to give credit to Jihan and the rest of his team at Informal. I suspect that what was needed was just like a really big push, and they came out and they did that. And around the time, the history of the proposal is like, so we found this issue that affected Quicksilver. We reported it before any exploit occurred, and unfortunately, it was exploited anyway. Because the hub is a $4 billion chain, and their consideration as a team was like, do we take it down to fix this? It doesn't look like it's likely to occur. Or, do we just leave it running, right? And the decision was just leave it going. And, well, around this time or so, that Larry couldn't sleep. Poor Larry. We love Larry so much. We want him to be able to sleep. Weirdly, the thing that made Larry unable to sleep is, it's crazy. There was what could have become a really severe problem in Tendermint. And that what it manifested as was the hub and Stargaze using 30 times the CPU. And I also want to give a shout out to Jorge from Stargaze, because in fact, Jorge, so basically Larry could not sleep. He couldn't sleep because the CPU fan on his validator was going like crazy. And Larry told Jorge about this because he looked at his Stargaze validator node, and Stargaze was using far more CPU than usual. Jorge investigated this, and Jorge found that it was all coming from one code path that actually handled kind of like an error or failure situation. When you start a Tendermint node, it will come up and request pieces of blocks from other nodes. Like, hey guys, I'm trying to get all the data for the chain. Can you begin to send me data? And it turned out that if you break that connection midstream, that you could, really, really juice up the CPU. And when I saw the patch, I contacted Jorge and I was like, dude, is there any scenario where this isn't an attack? Because when I read through your solution to it, I mean, it looks like it's something that is being done to the network. And he was like, yeah, that's kind of what I suspect. And I said, like, dude, do you mind if I try and get more people involved in figuring this out? Because the scenario that I see here, it ought to be impossible. And I want to bring the story to the full conclusion because a lot of people helped with this. It was a crazy, multi-organizational thing, how it all got addressed. So finally, well, actually, it's not finally. The middle step here is that I was working with Sergio from Informal Systems, and Sergio did amazing work confirming Jorge's findings. And I think he added a little bit of additional patch code. Now, I was basically working alongside Sergio because his specialty is Tendermint. So he didn't really know how to work on the hub, right? And he and I set up basically like a simulator that would allow a diagnosis to be made on live Cosmos hub nodes. And indeed, we found it. We even found, and I have a video of this, we found which nodes were breaking their connection midstream. We created some logging for it. And guys, the log for this was insane. It would just fly by your screen so fast. And the final piece of this is it was not an attack. At least, it wasn't an intentional exploit or anything. So Bbandz from Crypto Crew Validators, I was just chatting with him about this. He was like, dude, like, I have a weird feeling about this. I think it might be observatory zone. And I'm like, why would you think that? And I even was like, dude, I mean, this just doesn't seem like something they would do. You know, they're really, really helpful and friendly and stuff. And he's like, you know, some of these addresses are familiar to me. And I'm like, well, I mean, contact them if you'd like to.
So Jacob, wait a minute. Did you, just out of curiosity, did you, I mean, did this was before the funding proposal you found this?
It is. This is actually how the funding proposal sort of came to be.
Right. Well, I'm about to ask you, because you found the books, did that accelerate the acceptance of your proposal? Did your proposal sail through because of that?
It did accept. It did accelerate it, but I wouldn't say that our proposal even necessarily sailed through. You know, it passed and everything, but the hub is a spicy place, you know, and
Jacob, can I ask you quickly? I do want to like keep the conversation like a nice beat tonight, you know. So we might have to like just keep. I don't know. Some answers like shorter and not have the 5 minutes, you know. No, don't worry, dude. We all.
Here, so I'll just say he was right. It was observatory zone, and we can now talk about anything else you'd like to.
Well, I'm wondering, if you didn't get your funding, what was the other option? Were you going to have to go and find other services to provide? Would you guys have been absolutely fine and continued on like normal? Would you have to go and seek private equity? What would you have done if you failed?
So we're pretty busy. And what likely would have happened is we would have just sort of steered away from the hub a bit. Likely would have continued to validate and stuff. But, you know, we're using funding to determine our priorities. And so that's what happened. That's what would have happened. And frankly, this particular bug, it affected every single chain. And we probably still would have worked it if we'd have seen it. But, you know, the thing that Tihan from Informal says he really wanted out of this, and I believe we're going to be able to really deliver on that, is being like really active within the validator community, infrastructure monitoring, and then of course combining that with code. But code is maybe even the secondary purpose of this.
Tank, just on the, because Tank's like, you know, quite into governance and he talks about it a lot. Tank, just on the Atom funding prop or anything like that Jacob's talked about. You got any comments, dude, before we talk about something else?
No, actually don't.
You're cool. It's a bit of a fork in the conversation because we do want to talk a little bit about Juno and Strangelove, but while we're on funding and ICS, I want to talk about ICS because Soy's in the audience as well. Jacob, let's. I mean, I don't know. None of us really know the full story. If you don't want to talk about it, that's up to you. But Notional received a grant from Juno for work. Is that correct? Yeah.
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
Okay, and as part of that grant, did you hire? Because we all know Reese works for Juno now, yeah. Did Notional like hire Reese to work for them? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's right.
All right. I think the community got a bit of a surprise. I think when Reese moved to Juno, because I don't know exactly how long he was at Notional, but it seemed to be like a bit of a short time when we all thought it was going to be like a long-term thing.
Juno suspended all of its grants. Suspended their payment until they could be paid out using the Juno. It's the, what is it called? Vesting, the DAO vesting contract. Okay. And Reese, you're here. Again, I do regret everything that occurred with your payment. I mean, basically, it would not have been financially viable to retain him. And I'm really glad. I'm very glad that Reese is now with Juno. Reese does fucking banging work. And like, I also if we look at what happened with Juno's price, and guys, I do think that there was a bit of a failure in terms of the use of the community pool. Okay, we funded Loop, we funded a bunch of stuff with the Terror Recovery Fund, and I think that what we actually did is we kind of like cut our legs out from under ourselves. And you know what makes this rougher is that Notional's not really going to be in the practice of selling like the whole lot of grants that we receive. It's not the purpose of them, at least not for us. The purpose of these grants is to, we're going to stake them. This is going to increase our vote power. This is going to show our alignment with the network. And I mean, ultimately, just selling the whole grant, it's harmful, in my opinion.
Did you get nothing from Juno, or did you get like the first payment and then
we got the first quarter worth?
Okay.
I think it's fair to say that it's pretty quite late at this point. And it certainly hasn't been convenient, to say the very least. But I understand the other side of this really, really well. Okay, what I'm trying to say is, on a bunch of levels, it's kind of the right choice. On Juno's side, to be vesting grants like this. I mean, that's what Notional would do with the grant anyhow. Like if you go and look at, the transaction history on that thing, it, came to us. Sales, from that were to pay quite literally Reese. And, that's how we approached it. And Juno made a bunch of other grants around that time.
True. We're gonna talk about them in a minute, aren't we? Right? Because we've got an elephant in the room to address, right? What do you think about Reese's work though? As like one of the Juno lead devs, I mean, he seems to be smashing the functionality and stuff that's coming out at the minute, dude. He seems to be killing it.
Well, there are reasons that we recruited him. And my view on Reese's work is extremely positive.
Yeah, dude, he seems to be literally there's not that many what I would call superstar devs. But he's definitely in that category, You mentioned community pool earlier, Jacob. Jake Hartnell was on a call today, right? A food call saying he fucking hates the community pool and he wishes he could just burn it, right? Do you think, he was basically saying they shouldn't have community pools. Do you agree with that or not?
Well, okay.
Is it an oxymoron? Well, Jacob, wait a minute.
In some situations, the answer is yes.
Okay.
In other situations, the answer is no. So the Cosmos SDK is very flexible, man. And one of the really great things about it is you can build your chain the way that you want to. So basically, if a dev group wants to not have a community pool, I'm actually okay with this. That's their choice, and the software lets them make that choice. And if they do, I'm also okay with that too. Yeah, that's my thinking on it.
It should be a dev fund, shouldn't it? I mean, there's people that are saying that the words community pool is an oxymoron because the community sees fuck all of it. It's like basically insiders and devs kind of thing. If any community put a proposal up like Tank, they get shot down. So for a lot of the community, we're looking, we think community pool, bullshit. It might as well be called a dev fund, right? I think Tank will agree with that to an extent anyway.
I think that's a fair characterization, actually. And there are a bunch of questions about how to best do governance. And I think that personally, I'm good with the community pools as they are now. But I also have to say that Core 1 is a good deal more efficient than the community pool. Now, it doesn't mean every choice they ever made is perfect. Okay, but and they're able to action much faster, and there's not the crazy lobbying period, which, guys, is really hard, and that's definitely not software dev work, you know, and that's not great, right? I don't want people to not have to do code because they're looking to get funded. And by the way, the hub was sort of a pretty unique situation in that, like, for example, on another chain, I wouldn't ask for years with funding. I did that on the hub because the hub's team has changed so much over time. And, you know, Zucky has commented, like, really, the community pool probably shouldn't be where we fund software development work from. And I think I'm basically aligned there. However, then there's the question of, like, being democratic, shall we say, right? And maybe that's the advantage of having the straight community pool where every token holder votes in the same manner.
Tank, you got any comments on community pools, dude? I shouldn't ask Tank this, you know. He might be choking somebody out right now anyway. Probably, his little kid might be a little bit sick there. Right, Jacob, funding, Juno. Let's talk. I mean, I don't know. You think that maybe some of the community might have some wrong ideas about certain people. I believe Strangelove also got a grant for work at the same time. Is that correct? Yeah.
Yeah, they did. And you know what? For a long time, I didn't realize that they were actioning on it. So, guys, there's real serious issues with the ICF, because I'll also say Strangelove has a grant from the ICF for similar work. Okay, so Juno.
Oh, they got one from Juno at the same time, didn't they? Though, yeah. You both got.
I don't know if it was the same time. I don't know any details about anything with the ICF, really. Okay. But what I have to say is that over the past, it might be 3 weeks now, I've had the opportunity to go through what they've put together in really deep detail, because two, like, clients of Notionals wanted us to do work with that stack. And okay, first week, I found ICQ, and I noticed that Strangelove had, they had prepared this ICQ module perfectly, including documentation and such, to fit into the main IBC Go repository. And it was, again, perfect. And they had, so that's the first item. The next item is their packet forward middleware. And again, like, basically they're maintaining that separately from IBC Go, but it's versioned the same way as IBC Go. Finally, though, there's Strangelove's work on light clients. And I've got to say that, you know, Composable has been jamming on that as well. And this, it's called a WASM client. And to kind of make a long story short on the thing, this is the piece of software that is going to bring together Cosmos and Polkadot and Kusama and whatever crazy stuff they have over in the Polkadot ecosystem, which, I mean, honestly, man, I don't know too very much about, but I've been having conversations with people over there too. That's been cool. So basically, like, they've completed this, what I consider to be pretty major extension of IBC. Hell, I'll go further, okay? Major and important. And then I learned, both from, like, the external clients Notional working with and from Strangelove themselves, that, like, they're having a lot of trouble getting this work into the repository, into the like main IBC Go. And the problem with this is that makes it much harder, let's say a couple times more time consuming, to maintain these libraries. It also forces a programmer to be just doing a lot of, every user of these libraries has to do more work because they're not in the main IBC repository. And to me, that's just, it's really not acceptable. Also, historically, you know, one of the things Notional's done for Juno, it's even, you know, very clearly specified in our contract. We update WASM-D. We make sure that if and when Juno wants to, Juno is able to upgrade to like the latest SDK, the latest, well, essentially, literally, the latest everything, okay? And getting SDK 46 into the IBC repository was very hard. And it, you know what, man, it should not have been hard, because at the time, SDK 46, it wasn't complete. So one, the software development was hard, and that, you know, it should be hard because we were working with essentially like half-finished code. So that difficulty is fine. But the difficulty of getting it included and getting it visible should never have existed. And so then very recently, I learned that Strangelove is facing the same set of issues. And when I learned of this, the first thing I actually said to Jack was, dude, I'm sorry, man. I didn't know where the code was because it's not in, you know, the main repository. And he was like, yeah, I know, you know, they keep pushing us out of it. And this seemed, you know, ICF is, I'm not pleased, okay? And maybe this is even more serious than the other stuff I've talked of with them, because it's genuinely slowing progress in Cosmos. A little tidbit from Jack, hey, if I had had a supportive IBC team, I think that client could have entered production 6 months or more ago. And that I prompted that actually with a question, because I asked him, like, dude, the way that this looks to me is that, like, you actually could have dramatically reduced the ship time for this feature if you could just work in the IBC repository where the code is, you know, supposed to end up anyway. He was like, yes. And there are a bunch of reasons for that, and they're fairly technical, but that's what's led to, for me, I mean, kind of, let's call it a micro crusade, right? To make the key repositories in Cosmos more pluralistic. And what I realized today, actually, was that I hadn't taken it quite far enough in the proposal that's currently on the Cosmos Hub forum and was written by our Gov lead Lit and myself. The thing I didn't take far enough is that it shouldn't just, I'm totally down with Strangelove as a maintainer coordinator. And guys, what that basically means is that at no time did I propose that Strangelove should like take over the core maintenance role. And in fact, I want to also tell people that
Jacob, quickly, very quickly, can I just, right, if Strangelove left the eco tomorrow, the entire IBC ecosystem, right, because I know they're in a few projects, would we suffer or would we just carry on like normal? Like, are they a critical infrastructure or not? The work they do?
They should be. Here's what I mean. So they're being funded to make critical infrastructure, and they're making critical infrastructure, and that critical infrastructure is not being put in the core software libraries. And Robo, I am going to go ahead and say that if Strangelove just, you know, checked out tomorrow, okay, our present state would be fine, right? But this isn't about the present state. This is about the future state. And, if we're looking at the future state of things, I believe that we would be very severely impacted. The work of theirs that I discovered over the past couple of weeks, I mean, one, it's of very high quality, and two, it's really hard. It's challenging. And, there's, how shall I put this? Writing software is not, this isn't commodity work. What I mean is that what you're always chasing at is like getting to the end goal, but the path between where you are today and that end goal, it can vary wildly from person to person and organization to organization. And so it's like, maybe we could find somebody who did that, but they did it, and I think that's very praiseworthy. And then I'm concerned about how, actually, I sort of expanded scope today. I'm concerned about how Comet, IBC, and the SDK are being run because, I thought about it. There's like 100 major at Cosmos SDK forks. Many of those are inactive, but like a ton of chains that forked the SDK for their purposes. And so then it kind of hit me. Anybody who is, let's say, by the judgment of, I don't know who exactly, but I'm sure that we could find a group of people who could judge this, seriously building, right? They're using the SDK, they're developing whatever. They should have what's called write access to the SDK repository. This is the same thing for IBC, and this is the same thing for Comet. And the reason is that from a programmer's perspective, it's dramatically more efficient to have people, having write access to the repository. And we could maybe like have a policy where, like, I don't know, every 6 months we review who has write access. But there are today hundreds of Cosmos developers. And one problem we definitely have is that we're fragmented. We're fragmented by chain, we're fragmented by organization, and we're fragmented by which piece of the stack we work on. But if anybody writing a chain was free to push code to the main SDK or IBC repository, this would encourage way more collaboration, and it would show much more clearly than is possible today who's doing what. And I think that it would also improve sort of like the design process for future releases and such.
Lovely, Jacob. I'm hoping there's a few DMs coming in. I'm hoping we're going to be able to get a little bit of time to get some people up and ask some questions, right?
Am I getting called?
For sure.
No, we've got your tank. We've got you.
Yes,
You okay?
I can hear you.
Did Robo just speak though?
Robo
Yeah,
did
so we
just
might have to hop down and hop back up.
I did, yeah.
Bbandz, I'll hop back. Hold on 1 second.
Yeah, we'll get you straight back, Tank. Don't worry. I mean, Bbandz, you got any comments before we move on, like the next topic, or not? Are you okay?
Oh no, I'm fine.
I've
Jacob's
been getting
extremely intelligent, and so some of the things I'm not, 100% comprehend, but there are people here who do. So I'm just going to sit tight.
That's why you're the best co-host in the business, darling. Eh? Well, it's not even a co now. You're up as host. I want to ask Jacob, right? Or Tank's back. You okay, Tank?
Yeah, I think so. I can hear everybody now.
Brilliant. I don't know if you had any further questions, Tank, before we start talking about Genesis delegations. Do you have a question?
Yeah, but I don't know if it's appropriate now, or probably it's going to be something that segue into later.
Do it.
Well, Jacob,
that's what we brought you for. Do it.
Yeah. So basically what I'm understanding, or at least what I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, or at least give me your input on it, Jacob. Do you feel that the Cosmos Hub, or the Cosmos ecosystem, as our, how do I phrase this? Do you feel that we've put ourselves in, do you feel like we've practiced poor business practices throughout all of these entities, whether it's Strangelove, I don't want to say Notional, but like, Notional, yourself including, and like everybody included, right? Like we're seeing it. Can all of these entities sustain themselves without continuing to ask for community funding going forward? And with that, it's kind of an expanded question. With that, do you think we're so separated and fragmented and so divided in a way, I'm air quoting divided, in such that it's unfixable just because of the way that, the hub has developed itself, or the Cosmos has developed itself going forward? Like let's just say, like, the funding for like, I don't know. I kind of got lost, to be honest with you, Jacob, with the first original questioning, like, what does this funding mean to you? What does this mean for Notional? Is it allowing, is it going to allow you to expand? Like, from what I understood you saying throughout all of that was, it's going to allow you to hopefully hire on and keep eyes more on what's happening with the hub, right? Let's say that if that funding, like, when your funding runs out, and let's worst case scenario, like, who else is going to be able to step up and watch the hub? Who else is going to be able to maintain it? And is it always going to be meaning more community funds? Like,
yeah, I know what you mean, Tank. I know exactly what you mean. Jacob, we've been talking about this for a long time, right? It seems that a lot of these businesses are not sustainable unless they get funding. I think that's what Tank's getting at.
Yeah, like Strangelove.
Yeah,
like Strangelove, Notional. Like you already said, like, if we didn't get it, we were going to pivot away and not like leave the Cosmos Hub, but we'd pivot away. And then then we'd be as an atom holder, like we'd be just stuck with our dick in our hands, like going, well, who's going to be the white knight now? And like we see it with Confio, we see like all these guys, like, is it always going to be a community asking, like, what's going to change that going forward? And do you think that the minimalist discussion versus like the expansion of the hub and it being more functional and actually bringing the atom token of value discussion finally, do you think that we've in a sense spread ourselves too thin with what we're trying to reach for with the atom token and what the hub does, and now by doing so, we've unfortunately been now dependent on these businesses who unfortunately have not had good business practices, who are now dependent on the hub to give them funding, or the community to give them funding, because the ICF isn't doing it. Like, what happens 2-3 years from now? What happens when, like, say XYB doesn't happen for the hub? Do you kind of get what I'm asking?
Yeah, I totally do, Tank, because we've been talking about this for a long time, right? I tell you what, Jacob. Jacob, 1 second.
I get it fully.
1 second, Jacob, 1 second. You wake up tomorrow and right across the ecosystem, there's no grants, there's no funding, there's nothing in the future moving forward. How are you going to sustain your business? What are you guys going to do? Because a lot of people are saying it doesn't look like these business models are like sustainable without grants. So I think
even to like, knock on wood, definitely never want this to happen. But like, let's say worst case scenario, right? Like, let's say the leader of each one of these groups, which they can run without you guys. But let's say, Jacob, unfortunately, tomorrow you wake up, plane hits you, crashes on you. Same thing with Jake, same thing with their restraint. Like, what happens? What happens to the Atom Hub after? Even Larry, what happens? Boat, sinks, plane crashes, stuff like that. Like, what happens?
Okay, what happens is, and this could well be the reason that the community pool is so important. Things are moved about. Now, let me tell you what happens with Notional though, because in the event of my death, things just keep going. We do have a succession plan in place, and frankly,
so happy to hear that.
No, yeah,
I'm being very honest. Like, I never want that to happen to you, Jacob. But like,
No, it was very important. We're making, for the hub, we made a 3-year-long commitment. And yes, a plane could hit me. I could have a heart attack. I could be walking down the street and an elephant could step on my head. Life's got its entropy to it. So we have a succession plan in place, but I think you're asking about something that's even more broad than a succession plan. And I want to give you what I consider to be the correct answer, okay? So, recently, you have seen notice the way that I said this. You have seen significant community pool funding. Well, when it comes to the Cosmos Hub, that's the first time in 2 years anybody's seen anything. And Notional is sustainable. I'll give you an example, okay? Suppose that we did not get the funding from the hub. Notional would be all right. Does it help? Hell yes. Does it help us help the hub? Hell yes. Is it make or break? No. And how do I put this? We are frugal, and that is, in my opinion, really important. As boss man, founder, CEO, whatever you want to call it, I'm very cognizant of the fact that the business must be profitable. But anytime it's not profitable, that's that's a problem, and it would be my fault, mind you. So that's sort of the first piece of that. But you notice how I said you have seen funding occur. Well, I want to tell everybody I think that's really good because, well, then there's the ICF. I don't know shit, but I do know they have a $40 million annual budget. And that, I don't feel good about it, guys. There have been so many issues over time with, I guess, like how the ICF is run and how they comport themselves. And, at one time when I was basically making noise about, hey, the ICF is quite openly delegating to really some of the worst validators around. And by the way, let's define worst as like they get slashed, they don't vote, stuff like that, practical items, right? I was told to let the professionals handle it in a semi-public forum. That's not good or nice even. And the other problem is, okay, suppose that there were professionals and that they were handling it. In fact, that would be fine. But even by that early point, I already knew that, well, if there were professionals and they would be handling it, that conversation would not even happen. We wouldn't have been having that conversation because it wouldn't have been necessary. And so I guess now we get closer to where we are today. And where we are today is, I think, in my opinion, the lobbying process associated with community pool funding, it's awful. It's very unpleasant. I don't enjoy it, and it's also not a really good use of time for developers. But it's the ICF's job to make sure that funding is available and exists. And thank you. You're welcome, sir. And guys, I got to tell you, they're not doing it. Okay. So this actually is another thing that makes the community pool look kind of important. The ICF has said in various capacities that they're like not taking grant applications and we're going to reform stuff and fix stuff and we're going to have this technical advisory board, and I'm not seeing change of any type. In fact, when it comes to their delegations, I'm quite concerned that they're not making any delegations at all. And, the problem with that is that, guys, the folks who just rugged consensus at AIB, their atom stack is growing, their influence over the hub is growing, and it's bad to rug a major software component of 60 chains. Everybody has how should I say this? Everyone has to refactor their chain in some way, shape, or form.
Okay, so I'm glad that you guys have succession plan, and I like. So, to kind of go back though, but do you feel like the Atom, the Cosmos Hub now is in a position trying to be something or grow into something that is now dependent on businesses or teams that are unsustainable or have poor business practices?
No, I believe that Strangelove is sustainable. Tank, you want me to be really frank with you?
Please do.
Okay. I have concerns about Confio. And I'll walk you through how I chose my vote. Okay. And by the way, I don't know Strangelove's books. Okay. But I believe that Strangelove will be fine. Okay. But when it comes to okay, I have legit concerns with Confio. They stopped working altogether on, one of Cosmos's absolute most important libraries. And they did this for the purpose of raising funding, and it was kind of like a strike, right? But here's the thing. The chains were in play, live, hot, running, okay? During that time at Notional, we continued to work. That's actually one of the really good parts about having like long-term funding, for example, from Juno. And we are not really into business risk. And Tank, I know you're fairly sophisticated when it comes to both business and investing. And I think you're probably painfully aware that, you have to design things in a risk-averse way. If you don't, that can really mess things up. And then in this case, right, that could spread out to the ecosystem. And I voted yes for Confio's funding because at this time, I don't know of anybody who can replace their work. And
well, Jacob, can I just highlight something here? Because to us in the community, it seems like we don't know who's running Confio. Is it Ethan Free or is it Oliver Twist? Because your man seems to be all over with his fucking begging bowl. Now, there's a few. He did the original work on Cosmwasm and stuff, right? And we can all remember when Juno was all-time high, and him and someone else, came out in the public with their begging bowls. But I didn't even realize they got like a ridiculous sized osmosis grant, and they did fuck all for it. Is that correct? Did Confio get like a huge osmosis grant and then deliver nothing?
Well, let me just let me make really clear. I don't believe that they did. You just said they did fuck all for it. I don't think that's the case.
Well, but they didn't deliver what they were supposed to. What they delivered for what they.
I have a question about this. Okay, because I'm confused now. Okay, as far as I'm aware, everybody at Osmo is satisfied with their work, and but you seem to have a specific thing you'd like to mention. Is that right?
No, well, there's a few things. There's obviously the situation with Juno swapping wind. I asked Null to his face. I said, look, is this a golden handshake for the work on Cosmwasm in relation to Juno? And he was like, yeah. But then I found out he also got like the Hack-Wasm grant awarded as well. I mean, anywhere you look where there's people like asking for money, Ethan Freer's there, you know.
Well, I'm concerned about business sustainability there. Okay. And
okay. I know you might not want to say too much.
No. I've said this to Ethan's face. Okay. And I've had long conversations with Ethan about it. And look, I bet on them. Okay. I take our votes pretty seriously. And, I made literally a bet on Confio. And I really do hope it works out, because what I don't want to see again is, I don't want to see like this. Guys, from the perspective of somebody working in the ecosystem, what they did was quite jarring and quite disruptive. And because they just like stopped working on WASM-D and CosmWasm and a couple of other things that they consider to be public goods.
But on the lots,
that is their right. That is completely their right.
But aren't there lots of other teams though working on CosmWasm and WASM-D, etc. though, and WASM-G? Aren't there lots of other, like Confio is not the only people that are working on CosmWasm, surely. Fucking open source, right?
Well, okay. CosmWasm has layers. And by the way, this informed my voting and my decision-making process and the whole thing, okay?
Well, quickly, here's a question for you. Then if Ethan, same as Jack, if Ethan Freer left the eco completely tomorrow, would we keep going on the way we are? Or would WASM suffer?
WASM would suffer.
That's the answer I'm looking for,
yeah. Yeah, it would. And you know what, dude? That's why I voted yes. I rolled the whole thing around in my head, and I'm like, oh shit. There's
right. Well, let's take this another angle. How many people on their team? 25, 26, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they've got a lot of like admin people. Like, dude,
it's a very different team composition from what we have at Notional. Like even when it comes to like billing and client interaction, engineers actually do that here. You know what? Let me take a second, Robo.
Bro, they've got a lot of bloat though. Confio could go down to 15 people easily. They've got a lot of.
I don't know their situation, but you know what I do want to say? I want to thank Notional's customers right now. We've got the hub with the governance arrangement. We've got Juno with the Core One arrangement. But guys, our private cache customers, it's enormous and very important that we are able to do that. And I also want to say that this is why we were able to build out a software engineering practice. And I want to express gratitude to all of them. And since all the agreements are different, I'm not going to name them.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Hey, Jacob, I'll tell you what, I did want to get through like as many topics today, and you've been a great guest so far. Right, dude, I'm getting a lot of questions about Genesis delegations, right? And a lot of people like don't understand them properly. A lot of people are like, these are just like fucking handouts. It's the boys club. It's the same people like getting the same foundation delegations time and time again, etc. Or Genesis delegations. Right, Jacob. Can
you tell me how you define a Genesis delegation?
One second, though. One second. Have you recently started validating on a couple, like any of the new chains? So we've just had Mars Protocol. We've just had Quicksilver. Are you on either of those at the minute? Yeah, I think you're on Quicksilver. Are you? Are you on Mars?
Yeah, we're on Quicksilver.
Right. What about Mars? Are you on Mars as well? Yeah.
And we are Mars. Yes, right. We're on Mars. Absolutely.
Did you receive a delegation to start your node? Did you?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right, okay.
But
Our
I
Genesis
also say on both of those
1 second,
days,
One second, Jacob. Let's get some yes or no's out.
Yep.
Are Genesis delegations, like these foundation delegations or whatever, are they like critical? Because without them, you're not going to attract like your first lot of validators. You do your Genesis ones, and then you're going to get other validators to build up your set. Is that how that works? Or is that right? Yeah. To attract people?
To some degree, yes. But actually, I mean, Notional's in a kind of different position from the majority of validators, I would say, with regard to these, because when we receive those, it's typically because we've worked on the chain without, like, dude, we'll often begin work without a contract, okay? Making contracts takes time, and working fluidly on an open source blockchain, you can just do it, right? And then we'll end up getting either a delegation in Genesis or even like a piece of Genesis. And frankly, that is efficient as hell. We love to work like that. Now, with other validators, I think that sometimes these things are questionable, but also a practice that we promote, like among our clients, is being really selective about the initial validator set and mapping validators to value.
Okay. I just remember like some of the things that like Rama was telling me, about the I mean, it's basically like free money for validators, isn't it? I mean, you're providing a service, obviously, so it's not essentially free money, but it is.
No. I want to disagree with you fairly strongly there.
Okay.
When it's done well, it is absolutely not free money.
Right. Because how do these chains make the decision of who they give these delegations to do? Is it like all inside? Is it voted on? Like, can it be voted on by governance? Can it, if they're not fucking even running? But like, how the fuck are these like distributed fairly, where it's not like constantly centralized?
That is entirely up to the team. It's entirely up to the people building the chain. And also, I mean, I was saying before it being calm, like, oh, well, the SDK lets you do anything. And dude, I think that the fact that the SDK lets you do anything has been so critical to Cosmos' success. So one part of this, though, and it's worthy of mention here, okay? The SDK lets you do anything, including stupid things. And, so we just have to basically trust that, and by the way, don't trust, check, okay? I'm not actually encouraging that you go around and you trust random chain teams. And by the way, if anybody in the audience ever has a question about like some chain's Genesis state, I'm more than happy to look at the Genesis file for you. Okay.
I'm just wondering, I didn't know if something like, say, like Mars, for example, right, who were originally over on Terra, I didn't know if maybe like they had brought like, say, like, a section of their like validators from Terra over onto the greater IBC, because we always think of Terra as being like separate to the rest of like the wider IBC, right? There's like IBC, Terra's part of it, but we always regard Terra to be one side. So I was thinking, well, did Mars just like bring all of their like validators over from Terra and just ignore like the regular hardcore IBC lot? Or I just wondered how that worked. Now,
I'm sure they didn't ignore.
Jacob, do you apply for a foundation delegation? Do you? I think Rama told me that you have to apply.
Even correct? Making an application is kind of an anti-pattern. What I mean is that, like, okay, you know what? Actually, there are some to be in Genesis. Some of them will want you to KYC, and that sucks, and I hate it. We do it. But it's not a practice that I approve of, especially because like some of our colleagues in the validation space most certainly work anonymously, and you know what? I respect the hell out of them for it. I want them to be able to continue to do that. And
do you have somebody? Do you have somebody at Notional that directly on behalf of you guys? Do you have somebody that directly contacts these new chains to say, we'd love to validate for you? Can we talk? Can we receive it? I mean, do you have to go and like, or do they approach you direct? Or have you got somebody who does this?
It is usually the second one. I guess that's, we've done pretty well, and our brand is pretty strong. And usually when there's some hot new chain, someone on their team will approach us. And when we do outreach, that's usually through LIT, our GovLead.
Okay. I mean, I'm going back a long while. Did Rama used to contact new chains on behalf of you guys to ask about this? Did he? Back in the day, early days, yeah, before Litbit.
I know there was one.
All right, okay. Quicksilver, yeah.
No, not Quicksilver. Quicksilver. Well, I don't know why you would think that, but
I can only go off what people tell me. What people tell me.
He may very well have had contact with Quicksilver, and that's up to me. But I would say no, basically no. But he did get inbound interest from. Jay Bonetta is involved in this chain. I forget the chain has a name and but that's all you're getting from me because I don't recall the name of the chain.
More importantly, Jacob, though, are there any bad practices that you think of, or even as far as malfeasance with these Genesis delegation, the foundation delegations? Are there any practices that you're aware of where you've shook your head a little bit, or are you happy with it?
Yeah. So there's bad practices for sure. One of them is, the team can just run a bunch of nodes and just roll. Asset mantle,
right? Running five foundation delegation nodes, yeah.
Exactly, and then probably dumping them down, and that's just an ugly scene. And unfortunately, I suspect, but I don't know. Okay, that practice may be a bit more pervasive than is visible. Because remember, when you start a validator, you can give it any name you want to, whatsoever. Okay,
Jacob, are there any kind of backroom discussions or backroom agreements, gentlemen's handshakes or whatever, right? Where if you're a validator and you've received the foundation delegation or something, you'll be expected to support kind of governance that are coming out from the main core devs of the team. I've heard a couple of stories, and someone sent me some examples, right? I don't want to talk about the validator, but they got they got a delegation and kind of seem to vote alongside kind of the team all the time, right? I mean, are there any backroom deals that you get the delegation, you support us in governance, or what?
I haven't seen one. I've never seen that. But I will say that our default state, Notional is generally going to vote with the chain team. The only time we're not going to do that is when it seems fucked up. If something seems dirty, we're not going to go near it. We will vote no. If we feel how we have that whole thing about do not harm users. Well, if we feel that a governance proposal is going to do harm to users, or it's a software upgrade proposal and there's a bug, we will absolutely disagree with the chain team. And then, by the way, without hesitation. But I think that the blunt answer to your question is no, actually.
Good. I'm pleased to hear that. That's exactly the answer I wanted to hear, Right. I mean, look, Jacob, I'll tell you what, we'll let you pick the next topic because I do want to get your opinion on ICS, right? So do you want to talk Juno or do you want to talk ICS first? Do we go ICS, yeah? Is that all right?
Yeah. It's your show. Let's do ICS first. Let's do it.
Well, we've got 20 minutes. We've got 40 minutes left before Bbandz starts. I do want to remind everybody, guys, Jacob, obviously from Notional, the validator across many chains. If you do have some spare coins or you're thinking about redelegating, Notional, they never have any slashing, never have any issues with uptime, etc. Definitely think about them. And please remember, guys, today's show is sponsored by TwitterSpaces.org, who are busy, obviously, editing and archiving all of your Twitter Spaces, guys. And you can find the RAC landing page over at TwitterSpaces.org/RAC-. FM, right? You'll be able to find all the shows over there. So I just want to remind everyone, right, Jacob, one word answer from you to start the conversation. For the win, ICS or mesh for the win, one word answer.
ICS Mesh Alliance. I've already posted my thought on the win condition, and honestly, the win condition is chains where those three things are brought together. You use them for different purposes. And boy, I want to really hammer this home. Okay, so suppose that a year from now we have a network of ICS chains going. Well, I poked through Alliance. Hi, Jared. Guys, I can see it bringing benefit in a lot of different places, and I have questions about like the slashing model, but I have questions about each of these. Okay, now Mesh's downside is really the CosmWasm requirement, but I think that's fine. Like CosmWasm it's evolved a great deal. And so you can totally bind CosmWasm to dangerous stuff now. And just to give you an example about dangerous stuff, right? Slashing is dangerous, guys, and mesh will slash you, and mesh will slash you hard even. So that's kind of like my concern with it is like, what if those pieces were to ever fail or malfunction? But if we map each of these to economic flows, and by the way, Roman, this is why I refused to give you one of the three, and I put all of the three into the same word. If we map the economic flows, well, what does a chain want? A chain wants to be able to access all the economic flows in all of the security models. And now, today's ICS doesn't exactly expose you to new economic flows. It's more like a scaling tool or a safety tool. But the future ICS is supposed to, allow for, let's say, more complex constructions. And I really must say that I believe that the largest economic growth is going to be on chains that use a combination of those security mechanisms. Strong feeling there, by the way. My one-word answer is all, and strongly.
What's the general sentiment like, Jacob?
That's a really freaking good question. Okay. Mesh, I feel like the general sentiment is we need more information. ICS, I feel like the general sentiment is that there are questions about scalability and the cost of operations for validators. And by the way, I would be among those people asking that question. And with Alliance, I end up with questions about recursion and stuff and rehypothecation. And okay, here's a really great example. With Alliance, it's possible to like have a liquid staking token on chain A and then stake chain A's liquid staking token to chain A. Now, I should say, Alliance, I would have rejected it violently if it didn't have safety mechanisms on this stuff. And it does. Okay, so you're actually like, you're setting like what percentage of the flow is assigned to, this particular staked asset. And one of the really interesting things about Alliance to me is that you should end up on some chains actually receiving like dozens or hundreds of types of tokens for staking. Now, whether I'm very curious to see how it plays out over time. and I have some security questions, but I think that from a UX perspective, Alliance will feel kind of magical. So yeah, that's, I think that those are the ups and downs of each.
Thank you very much, Jacob. And guys, you know something, what we're going to do in a moment is we're going to try and see if we can maybe get some audience members, because there's like some giga chads here. I'm going to briefly kind of talk to Jacob about two things before we bring in questions. And I'm hoping, Jacob, that I can ask you this question, because I believe that we're friends, first and foremost, right? And I believe we're both professionals. And it's something that I kind of like, I've heard you kind of talk about a little bit, but I wanted to ask you like my question, right?
Yeah, please.
If we go back and if we look at a couple of things, like I'll give you two examples. Say like Jackal and Kujira, right? I want to know if, I mean, you did great work. We all know you highlighted issues to the community, very important. Do you have any regrets about how things worked out with those? And moving forward, like, have you made it up in your mind that, right, I'm going to do things different in future, yeah?
Actually, yes. Thank you for the question, dude. I appreciate the hell out of it. Okay, so with Jackal, that was insanely
well
hard.
You were correct with Jackal. You were really correct.
You're right. And
I think it's the approach, Jacob. I think it's the approach on Twitter that people like are a bit like, you know.
Well, okay. Here's why it was a super hard judgment call. There was like actual risk to validators block signing keys, and probably what I should have done in the Jackal case is a couple more hours. That's it. Okay. Like there was a ticking time going. It was very bad. And however, if I'd have waited for morning EST, and keep in mind we're, global industry, and when this was happening, I didn't know that the Jackal team was located Eastern Standard Time, United States. And if I'd have waited for them to wake up, I think that, things could have improved. Now with Kujira, what would I modify? Buddy, Kujira is rough because there was really persistent denialism. I feel that there's still really persistent denialism.
Did that get to you? Is that what drove your reaction, do you think? The fact there was a lot of like denial from them?
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, definitely. And I mean, the thing is, with Kujira, it also kind of just multiplied over time. I don't know if you're aware of this, but like far back as summer of 22, I was talking to the Kujira team about the security implications of, having a closed source code base in DeFi. And I think they're really serious security implications. I also think that suppose that their code is perfect and they have no security problems. Well, even then, what they're likely to do is actually be limiting the economic growth of Kujira, and that sucks. I'm painfully aware that investors hire folks like myself to check through chains before purchasing a whole bunch of coin. Okay, and like I'm telling everybody, like that is something I do. And so if I'm advocating like for the Kujira community, for example, right, I would say that if you want the project to spread and grow and be successful, you need for that project to be able to pass like technical diligence. And at present, nobody can do that. And I think that my regret on Kujira, I'll be quite honest with you, man, is the amount of time that I invested. I don't think that, it wasn't worth the amount of time I put into it. And if you
Right, okay, Jacob, this is going to be something I think that's so relevant at this right point right now. Okay, you don't validate on Kujira, correct? You're not one of the 75, right?
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, but you do. Now, I asked you, I want to preface this for everybody. Guys, I've asked Jacob this in a unrecorded spaces, but I want to get this on tape. Right, Jacob, you guys, you validate for injective protocol. Injective protocol are closed source. However, you've checked the code out, right, for injective.
Yeah,
Now,
that's correct. And it does change my comfort level a lot.
But the question is, did you have to sign some like confidentiality agreement, or is there some legal agreement you want to like? Because if they're closed source and they said, I mean, you could go and give that code to anybody.
Let me just tell you, I signed nothing. I had a conversation with one of their team members, and he said, "Oh, you want to look at it? I mean, that's cool. Like, you do a lot of good work." And I went and I looked at it, and I also will say that I'm. They're kind of overdue on the code release. I'll put it that way, and I really want to see that code get released.
Can you see the issue that the community is going to have with this? Because we all know, like, verify, don't trust. But at this point, if you say to us about the injective code, we haven't to trust your word, and none of us can verify anything. So, you know, Jacob, it's a weird situation for us to be in, because on one hand we're looking at this, and on the other hand, we're like, well, what the fuck's going on here? There isn't like parity between.
You're completely correct. Okay, and in fact, let me take it a step further. As myself, I don't like it because, you know, I'll just tell everybody, like, you know, so we don't really like do software dev for injective. I think I have had like a couple of pull requests merged or whatever, but I guess my point is that, like, certainly I haven't fully audited the code base, right? That takes a lot of time. And I mean, I can tell you my impressions as a, you know, professional software nerd or whatever. And those are my impressions. I was actually very impressed with a bunch of stuff. And I hope they open source it, because if there is an issue, Robo, like, check this out. I do see the issue that you have, as, you know, as a community member, with the, let's say, like, one-sided disclosure, right? I totally see it. I agree with you fully. Additionally, as somebody who has had, you know, access to the code base, I don't like it because it places additional risks. I do like Injective. I think Injective is a good product. I was actually, I did like a drive-through on Injective recently, right? Where you sort of like go through everything, check out the UX, see what transactions it's making, stuff like that. Oh, yeah, neat, right? But at the end of the day, I must also admit, I don't see it the same way as like a Juno or an Osmo, where I can check every single line of code. And I'll also say, Robo, that like having a check through it, that was a condition for validating, and we wouldn't be there otherwise.
Oh, dude, I appreciate your answer, and I want to say this, mind, guys. I'm getting some DMs, and people are saying, "Wow, this is like the best I've ever heard you, Jacob." Like, everybody's loving this tonight, mind you, dude. So thank you very much for it, mind. Very.
Thank you, dude. Like, yeah, I've enjoyed it as well. Is there anything else that you'd like to talk about, or you want to talk to?
Well, dude, there is, but actually, I think, honest to God, I think if we can get questions from the audience, that would be great. I do have one question.
I think that's a great idea. You know,
yeah,
they know what they want to know about. Let's answer their questions.
I have got a question for you in the DMs, but you know something, dude? If we start talking, because we've only got 25 minutes, then Bbandz is on. I think if we start talking about Juno, you and I, we might be there for like 2 weeks. Maybe you and I might do a little like informal fireside chat about Juno or something in the next couple of weeks, right? Because that could be like a
that very, very much. Because honestly, I'm quite bullish on the future of Juno. I realize you got like some concerns at present, but yeah.
Well, we've still got the NFT thing to do, so we're going to make history, guys. We're going to make hopefully NFT or Twitter Spaces history tonight. Right, I've got a question here, Jacob, right, from a very established community member. And it's asking about strange love and inclusion, right? And they've basically got ICF funding, right? But they've got their funding on top of ICF delegations from the delegations policy, but it prohibits. So they're getting. I mean, they're having their dinner and their cake and everything at the same time, aren't they? There's a strict policy that prohibits them getting funding on one side and then getting obviously money from the delegation policy. But they are. They're from the delegation.
I imagine that they're for different items. One of the worst things about the ICF situation is that, like, you know what? Screw it. I'll just say it. Okay. I've seen the entire ICF budget, and I've danced around this for like kind of a long ass time. I've seen everything. Okay. And there were, I don't know, two like kind of like, oh, that could be a little stinky. But if you consider that I was looking at summary information for like 18 or 24 months, two stinkers actually isn't that bad. And by the way, neither of these were 7-figure stinkers. And so with the ICF, and it makes me sad to say this, okay, everybody. I'm really looking at a situation where it's poor quality administration and not really like malice or fraud. It's just being run really poorly. And that is, it's really not fair to the community, because, you know, if we look at, for example, Confio's funding request governance proposal, right? Well, that conversation was dominated like hell by questions about the ICF. And you know what? I would say that the community members were correct to be asking, hey, like, what's up? Like, what's the ICF doing? And I believe that Confio didn't genuinely know what the ICF was doing, that the ICF did a poor job of communicating with Confio. And on the matter of strange love and inclusion, getting delegations from the ICF, what I would say to you, Robo, is that, now I'm making an assumption, okay, because it was a long ass time ago that I saw the whole budget and stuff, okay? And I don't know if you guys have noticed my tone change. Well, okay, that's actually why. I genuinely believe that I actually saw complete information, but it kind of just gets worse from there. Okay, the reason that it gets worse from there, guys, is that, like, you see, you're right to be concerned, Robo. You're freaking right. And I mean, what basis do I have as Jacob from Notional to be like, well, no, like, I don't know, I've seen some stuff that I'm 99.99999% sure they're not gonna, not gonna show just anybody. And by the way, I don't. Like, I didn't sign anything. Guys, I don't sign NDAs. This is a hard and fast rule, with only a couple of tiny exceptions that apply to, like, commercial stuff, people's strategic. Anyhow, certainly I wouldn't do one with the ICF because I didn't want to, like, I've heard bad things. Anyhow, okay. Strange love, inclusion, delegations. I think it's fine to delegate to them, provided that is not for the same stuff they're getting paid for. That's basically it. That's my thought there. I'll also say though, like with Juno,
can I say it's lovely to have Uncle Jacob back, because dude, after Medellin, we all thought we like lost you a little bit, and honestly, this is the Jacob I remember. This is the guy that like used to come and just tear up spaces back in the day with just pure fact, I love you, dude. Thank you very much, Jacob,
Oh, dude, thank you for having me on. Thank you so much. And you know what? I guess the thing that maybe made you feel like, oh, I gotten lost is a lot of commitments had been made to me. A lot. And they weren't true. And that's horrible. Okay. Like, my complaints were recognized by various people in and associated with the ICF. And I was told, around the time of Cosmoverse, a little bit before Cosmoverse, right, that these issues were going to be addressed. They weren't. And then, even more recently, I've seen, guys, the inefficiency around supporting Strangelove's work, it freaks me out. Okay, it's just wasteful. I'm not even talking about financially supporting them. I want to give you guys like a direct Jack Zampolin quote, because somebody suggested that we had a funding component to this proposal to make Strangelove the, coordinator of maintainers on IBC Go. The exact words were, no. We're actually, I may be paraphrasing, I apologize. No, we're paid well for this. And I just want the work to be usable. And that's actually a troubling piece. Yes, Tank, what up?
Sorry, guys. Apologies for having to drop. I had to take a very important phone call. I don't mean to, if you guys have already covered this, I just wanted to ask before, somebody or anybody has to run. Jacob, what was your thoughts about the picture that came out of ETH Denver, where we saw two of the founding, or parents, I should just say the two parents hugging with everything that's happening?
On a personal level.
In Burger King. Is that in Burger King, is it?
Yeah, it looked like.
Look, on a personal level, I'm happy for them. I have had co-founder relationships go wrong in the past. It's harder than shit, and like for them to resolve that, and I guys, I mean this so sincerely. If they've resolved like some interpersonal issues, I am very happy for both of them. Now, when it comes to the ecosystem, I think much better than a photo of Jay and Bucky hugging would be a frank discussion of the impacts of the consensus rugging event, which we still haven't had that frank discussion. Guys, the consensus rug was ludicrously expensive to the whole Cosmos ecosystem. And even to myself, and guys, other than, let's say, on the Hub and Juno and a couple other places where we have contracts, like we're doing the transition for free, or whatever the hell our delegations cost, or pay us. But thing is, when you make this change from Tendermint to Comet on any chain, you're creating. It's not a no risk thing, my friends. There is real risk there, and Jay should speak to the community. Everybody probably knows.
Do you think Ethan should also speak to the community, though?
Was that?
Do you think Ethan should also speak to the community, though, after having a photo op like that?
Oh,
because,
yeah.
That's
well, I would love both of them on a spaces like this one, okay, and begin conversation. Like, okay, look, Jay's done some fucked up stuff, and he said some fucked up stuff, right? He's not evil, and he's contributed a whole bunch of stuff to Cosmos, and I wish he would stop, maybe saying so much fucked up stuff and doing so much fucked up stuff, but I'm not saying that, like, dude's a snake or something, okay? And on the Bucky side of the equation, I feel quite similarly, okay? And I think that if we're really attempting to build transparent, long-lasting systems, right, that if that is genuinely our goal over time, then it's on us. And when I say us, I actually don't mean the folks in the audience. Your job, frankly, please, is questions and accountability right? Like, and you know, some questions don't even answer or enter the realm of accountability stuff. But like, what I mean is, please be engaged. If you hold tokens, you know, ask any question you want to. But when it comes to people who really, through the community's efforts, okay, have ended up in some kind of a leadership role, if we're serious about decentralization, if we're serious about transparency, then yeah, like, you know, come out, be exposed a little bit, and have a talk. And that, it's tremendously valuable. And by the way, if they'd have done that instead of just like this no context photo, that could be a very different thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it'd be a very, very different thing. Because I got to be honest with you, Jacob. Right now, I still have a little bit of Adam, but I like, you know, personally, I've been saying this to my community, or I should say the IBC community, not my community at all. Excuse me, apologies. But you know, the viewers of my show, I sold a whole bunch of Adam. I sold a whole bunch of Adam real close to $13 because I don't like the shit that's happening right now. I don't like there is no leadership. There seems to be every entity within the space, excluding, I'm just not saying it because you're here, but from the things that you said, I absolutely love that, you know, you think more business wise, your entity of more of a business, you operate more as a business, you know, excluding Notional. It seems like every entity that has any kind of direct exposure or power to control the narrative or course for Adam and the Cosmos Hub is either practicing very, very poor business habits, poor sustainability, like in just, you know, broad stroke, just poor everything. And like, you know, you're talking about Jay, he bugged the consensus. We have Ethan,
I was just going to say, yeah, we've got to be really careful on the time, right? Really, really careful. I'm worried we're running out a little bit, right? And I was going to say, Jacob, I mean, you said your piece on that, right? We did see it because people are starting to jump up now. I really apologise, Tan, because you know it's bare bones of Web3. Any other day, I'd be like, if it wasn't bare bones and Bbandz, I'll be like, fuck it, you know, let's just roll. But we are running out of time. Sasha's going to come up, but Sasha, you're going to have to wait 1 second because we're going to make history. And we've got to do this because this has been like days of planning. Jacob, for tonight, we our artist Ambido, right, the artist known as Ambido, created a one-on-one piece for Notional. This is the first time we've ever done it. I think this is maybe a first for like a Twitter Spaces team in doing what we're doing. Dude, we want to, as a kind of like, you know, to mark the occasion, we want to mint it on chain. And we want it to be in the Notional DAO treasury or wherever you're going to keep your NFTs or whatever, right?
That's incredible. So now, all of our validators have a wallet, right?
Well, 1 second.
And you can just send it there. Yeah.
1 second. Wait a minute, dude, because the next question's the important thing. Our original idea, because I want everyone in the room to know, guys, if you go to the bio of the RAC FM account, you'll see our DAO. You'll see a link to DAO. That is the RAC FM account, right? Oh, guys, Bbandz is at to jump off to go to our show. She was waving goodbye, but never mind. We'll go there at 10 o'clock, so we'll have to be quick. Right, Jacob, there's a big decision for you to make. We were going to mint it in our DAO, obviously easy through governance, and then obviously transfer it to your DAO where you could, you know, put it in your treasury and it's there forever as a unique one-on-one piece. Or I've actually been invited through Sisla to take part in the Game of Nodes, which is the thing with the ARC protocol and the cross-chain NFTs with the ICS 7.
Oh, that's amazing. Oh, hell yeah. That 721 thing, that's really cool.
So, well, if you were to have that picture, and we're going to, what Ambido's going to do, dude, he's going to destroy the original. So that will only ever live on in the NFT. Because on Twitter, that image, it's not a proper image on Twitter. You can't get it back on Twitter, right? The shit image. The proper picture will only be on chain in the future, yeah? Would you prefer the ICS?
Oh, that's so smart. You're going to put the data on chain. It'll be huge. Crazy cash transaction. Oh.
Do you prefer the ICS 721 or the DAO route?
Oh, they're 721. That's how we get the data on chain, right? I mean, oh yeah, do that, please. Amazing.
Right. Okay, let me hook that up. And what I was going to say is, listen, guys, you know, Bbandz done this for Jacob, right? But it's our job. We're trying to run the business, yeah? RAC FM now is a professional business moving forward, yeah? We're making a lot of connections. We're doing a lot of right things. Basically, guys, like, we're taking care of our artists. I'm going to say to Jacob right now, hey, there's our dow. We all know that, you know, a tip can be dropped or whatever. If there is a tip dropped in there, it will be put into staking, and then staking rewards are going to be used to, you know, give to artists and the giveaways. But yeah, Jacob, we're going to do that for you, right? We're going to get the ICS 721 standard. We're going to sort that out for you. No problem whatsoever. If you wanted to drop RAC FM a tip, you could, but you would be the first one to start our like funding kind of push like forward, because like
hang on. I'm in full support.
The cool thing is, dude, we've got a down.
How does again, by the way, audience, I believe he's talking about, they're getting into tech. They're doing the JPEGs, and they've got some tech too. And
who's that?
I love raccoon technology, man. Yeah. Find them in dumpsters and the computer science lab.
I tell you what, Jacob, what were your first thoughts? We'll get Sasha in right now because we are running out of time. We have to go in 9 minutes. Jacob, when you saw Bbandz one-on-one piece like created for tonight.
Oh my God, dude! Okay, I love it. I positively love it. And you know, like, okay, the shirtless thing. It's just me having fun. I like to see that. And I got a cat head, and dude, it's fantastic.
It's culture.
And you know, and that's
culture, Jacob, right? It's culture, yeah.
Absolutely.
FG, I minted today, like from chains to chains, back and forth. That was really fun. And
how easy is it, Sasha? How easy is it?
It's getting easier, and the cool thing is there's multiple ways. You can have it native on chain as a module, or you can use Cosmosm contracts for it. So,
would you give us a little bit of help, Sasha, maybe? Because I've got the instructions. All right, I've got the instructions.
I spent the half day or the full day testing 4 chains.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. We can go, like, we can mint on Omniflix and send it to Juno, yeah?
I'm pretty sure we can, yeah.
Okay. Sasha, did you have any questions for Jacob? Did you? Because I know you've come up. You've been dying all night, yeah?
One question, which was kind of related to the... I was looking at informal systems and their Rust implementation of Tendermint. Like, what's your take on that one?
It makes me want to cry. I'll tell you why, okay? Just so you know, it's not a Rust implementation of Tendermint. We all wish it was a Rust implementation of Tendermint. Like, I really, really do. I've worked with it in a bunch of different contexts. But what it actually is a Rust client library for Tendermint. And there was talk of doing a full Rust implementation for Tendermint. So if you're looking at that Rust code, right, and you're like, it looks like they're going to go all the way. Come on, guys, go, go, go. By the way, Informal's freaking awesome at Rust. Like, it's great. Sadly, the decision was made not to go all the way yet. And I'm, certainly I can't wait until it is taken all the way. And I think that they will eventually take it all the way.
And then there's this, what was it, commit, BFT commit or something. But I think that one is from Interchain Foundation, right?
Okay, Comet is a little complicated. Comet is primarily developed at Informal Systems, and it is the replacement to Tendermint, and it is it's the love child of the consensus rugging, and I hate it so much. I don't hate Comet, by the way, guys, and like Informal did what they needed to under the circumstances, and please don't ever say I'm hating on Informal over Comet, because the fact of the matter is that, like, that was a shit job that nobody should have had to do, right? Like, imagine your cat walks into the room and just craps all over and you have to clean it up. Well, look, that's what happened with the Tendermint consensus rugging. It's very bad. So Comet, just so you know, it is a just straight up replacement to Tendermint with a refreshed trademark. No, I'm not kidding. Really, yes, that's all.
Okay, I saw that. Okay. Thank you.
And then,
Thank
Boris,
you. It's horrifyingly inefficient what happened there.
Sorry?
Oh, it is disturbingly inefficient. Like,
Oh yeah. Okay then.
okay, yeah, let's waste about 4 months of dev time times about 5 people I'm pissed at Jay about this, by the way, guys. Like,
The last thing I saw today was like Blazor Hub, and it's like a completely in-browser chain that seems to have or wants to be IBC compatible and has like some kind of I sent it in your DMs, like Open Blaze. It's some kind of new thing, I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I saw it. You're the one who sent it to me?
Yeah, I sent it to you, and
I
I
haven't
had the same
yet.
idea when I saw the TS, like the relayer for IBC in TypeScript, which runs completely in the browser. If we have WebAssembly, we could do a lot of stuff there, yeah. And then having it on phones or whatever, like completely like a mesh, like Internet of Things style. Some freaky stuff.
Well, I will say this. I've long been a fan of Angry Mouse's work. Seriously, he did like IQ on that young teenage fellow is wow.
so guys, on that point, we are coming to the end of the show, and you know why? It's because your woman, who's often a co-host, I would never, ever, even though Jacob, do you know something? I could keep talking to you for like the next 2 hours and we wouldn't run out of topics. I'm literally thinking now, like, Jacob, if I try and organise a little bit of like a Juno round table, like a one-off special maybe for next week or something, or the week after, where we can sit down and talk about like how we can address what we see are fundamental issues, but like also how we can be a lot more productive and collaborate together, like moving forward. Would you be happy to come on that? Would you?
I'd love it. And I would attend in a heartbeat. Please do, and just let me know what it is, and I'll be there, sure.
Brilliant. Well, the RAC
that's
FM,
amazing.
Sasha, the RAC FM account's just DM'd you. Sasha will be in touch with you because we're probably going to need some help and guidance, but thank you so much for offering. That's huge to us. We really appreciate you as a friend of the show, yeah?
Yeah, man. Thanks to you guys. Like, dude, this was great. Thank you for the NFT. Thanks for like all the great questions. And you know what? I'll try to join like one of your open spaces soon. So if anybody's here, you didn't get an a question or anything, I'll drop in. And I also want to say thanks to all the listeners, all Notionals delegators, all Notionals customers, and just like all the people who do all the cool shit in Cosmos. So have a good night, guys.
Uncle Jacob, hey, that's the Uncle Jacob, right, guys, that I know and love. I tell you, this is why, like, I've followed the guy for fun since, like, the Lum fucking debacle. Like, Jacob, you know, when we have, like, Super Jacob, like, on Cosmos, dude, you help us, like, feel indestructible. Like, we all feel a lot safer when we've got Uncle Jacob, like, flying the flag, like, rational and, you know, you're insane, dude. Your work ethic and like your brain, how it works and how you see things, man. We fucking need you a lot, you know. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
But dude, when you start going batshit like crazy mad, like not sleeping for 3 days and just fucking going after chains, that's not good for you, you know. Calm. I think the calm, methodical Jacob.
That's actually a very good point. You're right. So yeah.
Oh, dude, you're going to win fans. You're going to win fans for the next 20 years, dude. Like, you'll be on 50K followers, like, within the next, like, 2-3 years easily. But yeah, Jacob, I've got to thank you so much. Guys, if you go to the Space Skelly's account or even Bbandz account, you all know who I mean, but there might be some new people in the room. That's Space Skellies, like skeleton, Skellies, IES, yeah. They do a wonderful, really good weekly show, 10 a.m. EST. She's my co-host on here. So I've got to end the show, even though I've loved it. So yeah, we'll sign off.
I'll catch you guys later. I'm going to hop off too. See you around.
Take care, Jacob. Thank you very much for your honesty tonight. And Sasha, thank you, yeah. And thanks to
God bless everyone. God bless everyone.
Yeah, see you guys soon. Bye-bye.
It's the RAC show coming from the RAC store. With this back in the Mac in the backflow. Let's go, chillin' with raccoons by the back door. Take calls so you can stake more. All I wanna do is making dough, right? But I found this crew and doing alright. We RAC will bitch, ready to fight. So many raccoons ready for the boss life. I might fly high like a kite, right? But always ready for a shite for the right price. Raccoon supply has the right price. Giving you respect if it's likewise. So I'm buying all the mean guys with the clean heart. Read between lines, laser beam through lean eyes. Larry or with clean lights, trash mouth, mean smile, be wise. NFT wise, fuck with these guys. It's the RAC rap from the back lab. 100 NFTs in my backpack. Crazy RAC rap from the stash app. RAC will take a lead in this haystack. It's the RAC rap from the back lab. 100 NFTs in my backpack. Crazy RAC back from the stash app. RAC will take a lead in this haystack. Blast that RAC rap from the stash app. Supplying the raccoons with a headbang rap. RAC gang with the RAC will slang. Like a trash can, hoodie with fangs and a gold chain. It's either RAC will or the red pill. Best chill while we get into the first meal. Best feel, best devs with the best skill. No shill, all real, secret is a great deal. RAC will insane, Shane better stand fast. Robo shooting his tweets with straight facts. Knowledge from the street, with the best plan yet. Winston gotta eat if you retweet that. Free alpha live feed from the base camp. McKenna always ready if you dare that. Buying all raccoons for his rare stash. Trash panda biker gang, motherfucking hashtag. It's the RAC rap from the back lab. 100 NFTs in my backpack. Crazy RAC rap from the stash app. RAC will take a lead in this haystack. It's the RAC rap from the back lab. 100 NFTs in my backpack. Crazy RAC back from the stash app. RAC will take a lead in this haystack.
TerraSpaces.